Okay, this week I was being lazy. I wasn't actually going to do this. Uh, It's hard to tell because I haven't watched any of the Buffalo Plus ones this week, thinking that I was going to do it. But today I sat down, hey, I'm not going to do it. And I thought I would listen to it while I was checking my emails, which I haven't done all week. And I had to stop myself to redo this. So let's see if we can't start by going through last week's notes now. Do have to say though that I have watched a whole bunch of other podcasts. Steve Tasker ones. I like those a lot, and have been kind of distressed a little bit because everybody's been giddy about because the Bills won without any stress that game, like we expected them to win for 14 games during the season, and that's got everybody all giddy. I'm not really sure that's the best uh, attitude right now, but hopefully the coaches and players are a lot more level headed than the newscasters and the fans seem to be right now. But here we go with my notes from the test, or from the test, my notes from the game the other day. Started talking about the games that I was hoping that we'd get a lot more help. It'd be nice if we were a lot more in our control, but didn't get as much as we needed. And of course, I have to be a smart aleck over there, but you know, whatever. This play where Josh got the roughing call, Cook was wide open again, and he was wide open right at the beginning of the play. So it's a shame Josh didn't see him. This right here, which is kind of funny because I love to see running games and I love to see games, but the NFL doesn't seem to like them very much because you always end up getting holding calls on the nice runs. Now, about half the time there is holding, but about half the time when they're calling holding on the long run, I'm not seeing it. So I wondered when Dallas got their holding call whether it was justified, and actually that particular one was justified. And the Bills ran a lot, and they didn't get any holding calls, which made the running game a lot more effective. And I just think the NFL calls a lot of holding calls, which makes running the ball a lot more difficult. Uh, Here we had a couple pass plays right away. It's a shame Davis couldn't find that ball. And then Diggs looked like it was in his breadbasket, but they didn't really show good replays to tell whether the guy was tackling him early or not. I guess we must almost had interceptions. Cook's touchdown was great looking, just snagged it right out of the air. This was kind of an interesting moment here because I am old and wonder about my brain sometimes. And then when Leonard Floyd, just his way his uniform flashed out there, man, I thought I was watching Dairy Tell. I mean, I really thought it was 1991 again for that second. Obviously, we had a good uh, first half. The announcers kept stressing, "Oh, the Bills got three personal fouls out there," but of course, Dale's got two personal fouls, and they didn't convert. So, you know, and they were all legitimate. I thought ours were legitimate, theirs were legitimate. So, uh, the one thing that I don't see on here was the blocked punt, right? And I don't have it in my notes to talk about here, so I'll talk about it here. But if he blocks that punt instead of missing it, that's a whole different attitude going into the game because obviously they would have been set up pretty well for getting 7 points in there and then 7-7, and it's a whole different attitude for going into the game. So I love the fact that we didn't have that, and we had really good luck because I'm not sure how we missed that. So that's really good. Just and I talk about luck for the games that we lost, right? I mean, if and that sack that was right before the nice pass in the Denver game, Russell Wilson had that ball, was right there, and that defender could have just swiped out of his hands and didn't. That was just bad luck. That's sometimes the way it goes. Again, I love to see running drives. I love to see going at it, but a lot of times NFL doesn't let you get there because you get a lot of penalties when you have running plays. Cook did miss one. Oh, this right here, McAfee had a whole big thing about what to do about the kickoffs because they don't like all the fair catches anymore and stuff. I think that if you put the ball down at the 50-yard line, maybe 45 of the others of your own side, and have to kick it 55 yards with it laying flat or flat on the ground, I think that that help a lot of the problems that they think about with kickoffs. Right, you're not going to get as much running and injuries. I don't think so. So I think they could do both, make it exciting and knock down the injuries. And I was kind of disappointed in seeing Von Miller. It just doesn't seem like he's running very much. So those were my notes. Let's go back to getting these guys back up here. But first, I'm going to end up watching them, see what they have to say. But let me just see where they're going right here. Of course, I watch the other shows, and they're all giddy about running, think we could run whatever. At least the Steve Tasker ones and Thurman Thomas shows did say, hey, they had so much success running because Dallas played the nickel, and Dallas has a light team, right? So if you're not playing somebody that's going to play the nickel all the time, you're probably not going to have the same running effect. Will say that I did like the fact that they kept with it since it was successful. But on that same note, though, I don't think that I would wear out James Cook with these next few games, trying to do that same thing all the time with him. I would use Cook primarily as a pass receiver, even out of the backfield when he comes in here, instead of trying to run it all the time now. And not only that, but I think that your defenses are going to try stripping the ball from him a lot more. I don't think it was a fluke that he fumbled or they were able to strip it out. There, he's great, but he's probably going to have to learn how to go down instead of getting in the scrums because I think they're going to be able to take the ball from him uh, pretty often if he's always fighting for yards. And that's not really the kind of back he is, right? He's faster than everybody else and sees the hole and gets where he's going fast. So he doesn't really have to fight with three different guys. If three guys are tackling him, one of those guys is going to end up stripping the ball. But not to wear him out this time, I would run Murray a lot more on the runs. I think they could do that here. Let Murray take a lot of the harder runs and let Cook get the passes out of the backfield a lot more like that. So, and then the other thing about all this run excitement, right? If you run the ball down the field, it's great. I love it. 10 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards, 7 yards. But, you make your money in the red zone. And just because you can run against the nickel in the middle of the field doesn't mean you're going to be able to run the ball when you get to the red zone. So, got that. So let's go see what these guys have to say here and do a little bit of a reaction.
By Connors and Ferris. He is not Jenna Cottrell. I am not Jenna Cottrell. I'm Mike Catalana. He is Dan Fates. Jenna getting a, can we say Princess Day off? No, she deserves
a holiday veteran rest day. She's still trying to, her mind is still in a pretzel from trap game or look ahead spot.
Well, we'll have our own trap game, look ahead game discussion about that. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate all the people responding.
So I don't know about trap game, but I do know that everybody thought that they were going to win 14 games easily, like Dallas, and really they've only done kind of done it in 2, 3, and 4, kind of, and now they've done the Dallas game, but sometime, hopefully they can keep this up all through the playoffs because they have a team that can, but you do have to get lucky and not have that guy block that punt in order to make games like this.
Bills have been rolling along. All right, we're going to get to talking about the Chargers because it's an NFL game and we've seen enough of this. So don't dismiss anybody. We're going to talk about playoff scenarios. But just like Sean McDermott has said a couple of weeks ago, we start from within. We start with this Bills team.
Self-scouting.
A couple of weeks ago, they were lost, couldn't figure out what to do in tight games, threw the game away in Philly, and now they are the darling of the national media.
It's funny how things change. And I think it started too, Mike. It even goes back to when we were the first time we talked about, like, this team just may be who this team is. And that was after the Denver loss, where we kind of were like, yeah, they're just not a playoff team. Like, this is just kind of who they are. They bounced back after the firing of Ken Dorsey. They beat the Jets. Then they go play well in Philly. Like, I know we that has seemed to be like, there are no moral victories, but that still seemed to be like a okay loss.
It puts it in line with what we talked about at the time, the Tampa loss in overtime, where they made some mistakes.
Yeah.
That was a comeback game, but the idea of, like, finding something in a loss.
Yeah.
Right?
They did. And now they just seem to be rolling again, coming off two massive emotional must-have wins.
I was laughing at the Chiefs game and the way some people responded to, well, they got lucky and this and the other. I'm like, I don't care. Win the game and move on, because your next game was the one you pin at the top of your Twitter reel, right? It's the one that you say, oh my God, the Cowboys game was great. So it doesn't matter how you won the Chiefs game. It doesn't matter. So you get the win, then you blow out the Cowboys. Now you feel like you are on a roll.
Yeah, and now I feel like the bandwagon is filled back up.
Yeah.
It's awfully funny how that works.
Yeah. This is what we always say about the national people. Look, we have our own opinions, and some of you think we were too negative at different times of the year. We see them all the time. These other guys, they swoop in, they swoop out, they come in, they make their big proclamation. A few weeks ago, it was like, Josh Allen is a good quarterback. Well, thank you, Rich Eisen, Mike Greenberg, all the guys. Like, they're very talented, great careers, but, like, do you think we just realized that Josh Allen is a good quarterback?
Well, and it's the fact of, like, people are like, well, you guys were so negative.
So it's kind of funny, right? It's like, the reason I do this is because I get the same feeling with these guys, right? They're bandwagon, I mean, those were unfortunate losses. Similar, like I said, you have the same kind of problem if Dallas blocks that punt as you do if you don't knock away the ball out of Russell Wilson's hand on that sack. It's the same thing. It's one time you get a little lucky, and the other time you don't get a little lucky.
Negative. Weren't you negative? Like, weren't you coming to this channel and coming to this? There were some people that are like, I love this podcast, I love this channel, but you guys are too negative. It's like, then find a different team. Like, at this point of the season, like, it was bad. And so to see them bounce back, and that was what I was kind of talking about after the game on Sunday, the way the sidelines felt being on there.
Only bad because they lost, and only lost because of bad luck.
It was almost like we knew we had this in us. Like, we knew we had this type of performance in us. It just, we weren't doing it. That was what Latavius Murray said about the players' only offensive meeting, was like, we feel like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. They kind of shot themselves in the foot in Philly. They shot themselves in the foot several times in Denver. And now it just seems like this team is starting to not do that. And it's amazing how much they can win.
They have an identity now. You don't think they have an identity? I don't think it's a specific thing. I think their identity is they know what they want to do defensively. They are a well-coached defense. They are a well-coached defense. With all the injuries, guys step in and make plays for them. I know they failed in big spots during the year, okay? And I know there were some issues. But when you watch them now, you say to yourself, I have faith in that defense. It's hard to have faith in a lot of defenses around the NFL. You look around, you say, the Chiefs is really good. The Jets has been good, but they can't score. I look at it, I go, who do you love defensively? San Francisco's pretty good.
Well, that's what I was just thinking about too. When Patrick Mahomes was driving in that second half, my ex DMs are like, here he goes again. Here he goes again. This guy can't close out a game. He's Patrick freaking Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that every time Tom Brady had a fourth quarter game-winning drive, the fans and the other team were like, well, this just sucks? Like, there are a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that are good, especially late in games when the pressure's on. Like, and so to sit there and say, well, like, he never gets the job done. He's proven that he can get the job done. That Sean McDermott, and again, I know it was crazy. I felt like when I said, despite all these injuries, I still think this defense can be a top 10 defense. There aren't very many defenses playing as well as the Bills are right now, especially.
So I don't know why they ignore the fact that they gave up that touchdown to Kelsey. Right? I mean, that was fortunate for us. We got that lucky break that he was offsides. But that Bills defense did not hold the Chiefs out of the end zone. We would have needed a great big comeback from Josh. So it's hard. It's hard to understand how you can have this discussion without knowing that that defense 2 games ago gave up the points that could have lost the game.
So what? Math here. 12 quarters.
Right.
I mean, I guess you can go back 16 quarters. They probably played, you go back to the Jets game, they probably played 14 really good quarters.
Yeah. The second two and overtime,
Philly.
I guess, in Philly. Yeah. That were bad for them. And then, by the way, the Eagles just left whatever they had there and they haven't picked it back up again. But in terms of when I say well coached, I mean, you look at what they've had to do and the changes they've had to make. And
I do like the Bills' defense, even if they did give up the points that would have lost the game.
You know, I mean, they played that Dallas game, and the offense, and we'll talk about the offense. Offense was phenomenal for what they were doing, right? When you can keep Josh Allen as a bit of a game manager bystander, the rare time, and just destroy a team and give that offensive line confidence is one thing. The defense may have played better than the offense.
Yeah, especially against the best offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like it was one thing I was like, oh, hey, like it was great. You know, you shut out Patrick Mahomes in those final 2 drives and you needed to do that. I still went in there confident going into that Chiefs game because I thought the Chiefs offense stunk.
Yeah.
Like I was very worried about what the Cowboys offense could do against this Bills defense that we said, no Trey White, no Matt Milano, no Daquan Jones, no Micah Hyde. And then you're also missing Jordan Phillips at the end of the game, no AJ Epinesa. Like all of those things. And Sean McDermott was so good at confusing Dak and was able to put pressure selectively. And also, when the Bills defense plays well, I feel like I'm the first one to be like, hey, Sean McDermott's a great job. It's also guys winning individual battles. I think Jordan Phillips has had an okay year. I think he's been louder with his trash talk than his play actually has been, but he was phenomenal in that game. Like he was a difference maker in that game. So you also have to give a credit for when things go really well. And we say like, and again, Sean McDermott deserves credit for the game plan that he came up with. There's also players in the field making plays.
100%.
So when the defense sucks, we also can't say Sean McDermott stinks. It's also part of it is the context of understanding, hey, by the way, the players failed.
The reason I said that was so well.
I'm going to listen to it, but
Dallas
I'm not
with all that talent. And look,
all right.
Again,
thanks for seeing this.
My love for the Cowboys has been